CSS position. CSS position is used for positioning any of these elements on the DOM. We have different kind of CSS positions, which is the static, relative, fixed, absolute, and sticky. When you place any of the elements on the DOM, it's going to be following some sort of the DOM flow. So for example, you have this span element and it's just going to be placed next to each other. We have the properties of top, left, right, and bottom of CSS, which is basically being affected when you use any of the position properties. So let's have a look at the first position, which is the static position. The static position is the default position that's used in CSS. The static position has no effect on the top, left, right, and bottom properties, and using such is of no meaning. Moving on, we have the relative position. Relative position, as the name suggests, is going to be positioning the element relative to the original position. So for example, this element 2 is supposed to be positioned in the same line as element 1 and element 3, but since we have used the position of relative and top as 10 pixel, is positioned 10 pixel from the top. Moving on, we have the fixed position. In this, you can see that the element 2 and element 3 has been overlapped. This is because the element 2 has been specified the position of fixed. When you want to be positioning an element to a fixed place on the particular web page, you're going to be using this position of fixed. So for example, we want to be positioning the element 2 at the bottom right of this screen, irrespective of wherever I scroll on this screen. So in this case, I'm going to be positioning this element 2 as position fixed, specifying the bottom as 0 pixel and the right as 0 pixel as well. So it's going to be positioned at the bottom right of the screen. Moving on, we have the absolute positioning. So absolute positioning depends on the ancestor's position or the closest position element. So in this case, we have this green box, which is the container element, and then you have the element 1 that is placed within this container. So when you want to be using the absolute position, you give the green container a position of relative, and then you give the element within a position of absolute and the top as 10. Now in this case, instead of being positioned in relative to the original position, is being positioned relative to the closest ancestor, and in this case it is the green container. So we see that it has been positioned 10 pixel from the top of the green container. Now this absolute position might be useful in things such as the context menu. So for example, you have this screen where you have this context menu when you click on this button here. So this has been depicted by a diagram over here, which is a 30 by 30 pixel button, and under which we have this menu. So in this case, we are going to be positioning the closest ancestor, which is the button, as position relative, which means it's just being positioned according to the normal document flow. And then we specify the width and height as 30 pixel for this orange box. The inner element is going to be the menu, and this is going to be positioned to absolute, and the top as 30, because we want it to be positioned just below the original container. So we specify the top as 30 pixel. This results in the menu being just under the given button. And you can also see that when you use the position of absolute, the overlapping might happen with the other elements. It's removed from the entire document flow, and this basically gives you sort of like a hover effect. Let's move on. We have the sticky position. Sticky position is a mixture of the fixed and the relative position. So for example, you have this screen where you have an advertisement on the right, and the advertisement is 200 pixel from the top. Now let's suppose you specify the advertisement position as sticky and the top as 10. So in that case, this particular advertisement is going to be remaining in the same position until you have 10 pixel remaining from the top. So for example, when you scrolling down, and after this element is going to be behaving like a fixed positioned element, and it does not really matter how much you scroll down, and this is going to be remaining in the same position, maintaining that 10 pixel from the top. And so that's sticky position and all the different types of CSS positions possible.